Governor Sherrill announced last week the state budget is facing a $3 billion structural deficit. That means it's on track to spend more than it brings in. And Sherrill says that unless something changes, the state will burn through its $7 billion surplus in 2 fiscal years. It's a new challenge for a new governor as Sherrill prepares to deliver her first budget address next Tuesday. But it's nothing new for Republicans who've been warning about a structural deficit for years. Joining us now is the Republican budget officer, Senator Declan O'Scanlan, to share his thoughts as part of our Under the Dome series. Senator, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk to us. You and I have spoken about this structural deficit for a long time. What was your reaction hearing the governor come out and announce it last week?
It was a complete vindication of everything I and my fellow Republicans have been saying. It's sad because it didn't have to be this way. Had our warnings been heeded years ago, we could have been in great shape right now with relatively little pain, actually. We could have redone the school funding formula, saving more than $1 billion a year, given a lot more money to districts that arguably deserve more money, just not an obscene amount of money to the point where they're setting it on fire. It's a shame that those opportunities were squandered because we won't have them again. We could have done relatively easy, relatively painless prospective pension and health benefits reforms. Had we done those 5 years ago, 6 years ago? And Republicans have been calling out for this since the beginning of the Murphy administration. Had we done it, again, our budget would be close to balanced right now, probably, because of the compounded savings that would have accrued over those years. So, none of that happened. And we warned every year our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, and as much as this was vindication for Republican budget prescriptions, it was a complete indictment of the Democrats' handling of the budget over this past 7, 8 years.
Senator, where do we go from here? Because there's a new administration. I'm not sure how, if at all, you've communicated with the Sherrill administration about reforms you'd like to see. But let's just take the first 2 expenses that are the largest for the state. You mentioned both the pension fund and, well, you mentioned health benefits. But let's look at the pension fund. First, should that be fully funded?
You absolutely have to fully fund. That's a commitment to the workers. And again, we did reform back in 2011. And one of the things we did in exchange for that was promise we'd fully fund. We ramped up as per that agreement, and we have to maintain that funding. You can't go back to where we're underfunding because it will only compound our problem going forward.
Right. Second, which is also a compounded problem where the bill has come due, is the school funding formula. It's a problem without a clear solution, and I'm asking you, what would be your plan for how you really restructure the funding formula so that it feels fair? A lot of districts have said that they've been targeted. All the politics aside on that, how do you reform that school funding formula?
Well, had you done it a few years ago, it would have been much easier. You need to look at, and there were plenty of districts that were underfunded that legitimately were owed additional money from a moral standpoint and from a previous agreement standpoint. You could have done that and just...
How do you go forward, though, Senator? How do you reform it from here on out?
You go back into the formula and you claw back what you can from these districts that now are getting way more money than they need and way more money than we can afford. And
respectfully, I haven't heard a single district say that they're getting more than they need. In fact, most districts, even who've been on the gaining side, say that they're still operating in very tight budgets.
Well, I can demonstrate, certainly Newark. Newark has $1 million travel budget every year for its board members and staff. There is no other district in the entire state that has a fraction of that. There are plenty of districts, a number of districts that are getting more money than they need. And look, no district is ever going to admit they're getting more than they need. That's where leadership comes in. You go in, you dig into their budgets, and you say, look, we can't afford certain things. We can't afford your $1 million a year travel budget. We can't afford your hundreds of thousands of dollars in entertainment and balloons. It's garbage. And by the way, the kids are still getting a crappy education in Newark and in other places. So you just have to, you need executive leadership. We did not have that with the Murphy administration. And we haven't had the leadership in the legislature either. The Democrats around the legislature have been loath to go in and do the real hard work that it's going to take to fix the school funding formula.
Let me ask you this.
It can be done.
You and a number of your colleagues, Senator Testa, Senator Steinhardt, and Amato, put forward a number of reforms that you'd like to see. I want to just go through a couple of them. The first is you'd like to eliminate unjustified special grants to counties and schools. Where would you start there?
Well, I'd start by turning down Jersey City's request to have the state taxpayers come in and bail them out from years of what was Democrat leadership there. The consequences of poor leadership, of kicking the can down the road, have to fall on the people that voted these people into office. They should not fall onto the taxpayers of the rest of the state of New Jersey. And we have now Newark on the precipice of major budget issues. The state of New Jersey shouldn't be bailing these places out. They need to run their budgets and run their operations more efficiently. It's really that simple. And the people who voted these people into office are the ones that have to pay the bill. New Jersey taxpayers, the broad New Jersey taxpayers, send hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars to these places every year. We can't continue to bail them out for their bad practices. That's got to end.
Another is you'd like to redirect loans, and this is really interesting to me. Right now, the state of New Jersey is making loans to the federal government. You'd like to see those redirected to municipalities instead. Can you explain that?
It's where we put our cash on hand, our short-term cash on hand. Right now, we invested in federal Treasury issued bonds at very low interest rates that we get back on our own money. We could invest in municipal bonds. There hasn't been a municipality in New Jersey that's defaulted in 100 years. They pay a lot more interest than the feds. We should be doing that. It's a little bit more work for Treasury. Yeah, it is, but it's worth probably hundreds of millions of dollars a year in extra interest that we would earn on that money that's just sitting there in very low yielding federal documents. We shouldn't do that. We should be investing in municipal bonds.
You'd like to see some reforms made. You mentioned the health benefits plan. You'd like to see caps on those payments made. How would the state negotiate that?
Well, you got to go back to ideas that came from labor, actually, that were ignored by the Murphy administration. Our state health benefits plan right now, because of a lack of attention by the Murphy administration, is likely in a death spiral. And I don't think anybody has a solution to how to fix that. Regardless of what happens, we need to work with labor because they pay a big chunk of their salaries, too, for these high-cost practices. You need to go in. We can negotiate caps on procedures that line up with what the feds pay on prescription drugs. There's a batch of low-hanging fruit that we could hammer out with labor. We'll save our workers' money, our New Jersey employed workers' money and the taxpayers' money at the same time.
Just really quickly, because I want to get this in before we run out of time. There are a number of reforms that have been proposed by both Democrats and Republicans. A package of bills by Assemblyman Brennan and Assemblyman Bala and Assemblywoman Brennan that would require 14 days for the budget to sit before it's approved. And then on the Republican side, we have Dunn and Scharfenberger proposed a bill that would require any, we call them Christmas tree add-ons, to be proposed or to be filed by June 1st. Do you know if there's bipartisan support for the Republican bill? Are you working with members of the legislature to move both of these packages along? Are you in support of both?
I'm in support of both, but look, the legislature already ignores laws that are on the books. So if you really want to do this and have teeth, we should do a constitutional amendment. And I would love to have my Democrat friends on the other side of the aisle join us in calling for a constitutional amendment that would mandate a budget process that's clear and transparent. What we have now is a disaster, and there's a lot of lip service paid to that disaster from my friends on the other side of the aisle, but then they don't do anything about it. I hope they'll join us and propose proposing constitutional amendment, which would mandate our process. Right. That's the way to solve it.
We got to leave it there, but Senator Declan O'Scanlan, appreciate you coming on talking about this. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Under the Dome is made possible in part by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.